Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Rocío Baños Piñero and I'm Associate Professor at UCL at the Center for Translation Studies, which we abbreviate as CENTRAS. I'm also the convener of the MSc in Translation and Technology, which is one of the two postgraduate programs which we offer at CENTRAS. The other one is the MA in Translation. And the purpose of this video is to tell you a little bit more about these two programs, these two postgraduate programs which we offered at CENTRAS. But before I delve into these programs, before I talk about core modules, optional modules, and future prospects, if you were to take these programs, job prospects, what to do after you finish the MSc or the MA in translation. I just want to give you a little bit more context. So as I said, we are the Center for Translation Studies, but we belong to another center, which is called CMII, which stands for Center for Multidisciplinary and Intercultural Inquiry. And as its name suggests, it's a very multidisciplinary center, which we share with colleagues from comparative literature, from film studies, from health humanities, gender studies, and so on. So now that you know a little bit more about who we are and where we belong within UCL, I'll just move on to a PowerPoint presentation where I'll talk a little bit more about each of the two programs that we offer at postgraduate level. So as I mentioned earlier, we offer two postgraduate taught programs at CENTRAS, the MSc in Translation and Technology and the MA Translation. Both of these programs will give you the opportunity to develop translation and language skills, deepen your understandings of the workings of language as an essential tool of communication, and gain vital experience in rapidly developing areas of translation and related fields. We covered a wide range of areas in both the MSc in Translation and Technology and the MA in Translation. You can see on screen some of these fields. So in audiovisual translation, we have expertise in subtitling, accessibility to the media, of course, interpreting, research in translation, some fields within specialized translation like medical translation, scientific and technical translation, website translation, which some refer as website localization, video game localization, especially in the MA literary translation, and of course translation technology features heavily in most of our programs and in our pathways, especially in the case of the MSc in Translation and Technology. So I've briefly mentioned this concept of pathways, which I'll explain in the next slide. So within each of our two programs, we have different pathways that students can take. So within the MSc in Translation and Technology, we have the audiovisual pathway, the scientific, medical and technical pathway, and translation with interpreting. Likewise, in the MA in Translation, we have a pathway on translation studies, translation and culture, and research. In all these pathways, students will have to take 180 credits, which will be made up from core and optional modules. Now, what is different within each pathway is which core modules you will have to take, and also, of course, the optional modules that you're allowed to take. I'm not going to explain all the core and optional modules options in each of the pathways because all this information is available on the website, but I will show you some slides with information about each pathway very quickly. So this slide shows you information about the MSc in Translation and Technology, and in particular the scientific and technical and medical pathway. So within this pathway, students will have to take core modules like Translation Technologies 1 and Language and Translation, which are in fact compulsory for all students doing the MSc in Translation and Technology, but also they will have to take modules that are essential for this pathway, like medical translation, translation technologies 2, language and automation, and scientific and technical translation. They will have to take a dissertation, which is compulsory for all master's students. That will be a total of 150 credits for core modules, and then they will have 30 credits of optional modules which they can choose. So if you take this pathway, you can choose 2 optional modules amongst the choice that you can see on screen. And as I said, all pathways will work in a very similar way in the MSc in Translation and Technology. In this slide, you can see the pathway for audiovisual translation. As I said, I'm not going to explain every single choice, but just to show you that the configuration of core modules will vary depending on which pathway you choose. So here we have core modules like subtitling, audio description for the blind, etc., etc. And the same applies to interpreting. So in interpreting, you have core modules like general interpreting or liaison and consecutive interpreting. And you will have detailed information, as I've mentioned, on our website. Something that applicants ask about is language combinations. So in the case of the MSc, pathways are only offered in specific language pairs and directions. And this is mainly due to the professional focus of this MSc. In this case, in line with industry standards, our students can only translate from a language that they're proficient in, that is an advanced level, into the mother tongue or native language. And this is because this is what is done in the industry. You normally are asked to translate into your native language. We offer a wide range of language combinations, but these again depend on the specific pathway, and therefore you'll need to check our website. You have there a list of languages that we cover, but for example, in the case of interpreting, we only offer those highlighted in red, from English into Arabic, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and Russian. But the other languages are available in other pathways like audiovisual translation and scientific, medical, and technical translation. And of course, we have combinations working into English for English native speakers. You can translate from French, German, or Spanish into English. As far as the MA in translation is concerned, the different pathways work in a similar way. You have specific core modules that you have to take. So in the case of translation studies, you have language and translation theory, and you have a wider choice of optional modules, which you can take from modules offered from centres, modules that are core for MSc, the MSc in Translation and Technology, and also modules from other CMII programs and language modules that are taught within different language departments. And once again, on our website, you have very detailed information of how many credits you can take within each of these options. Here you have a slide from translation and culture, and once again you can see that the type of core modules is different in this pathway, and then you also have, as in the previous pathway, a wider option as regards optional modules, and the same applies to the following and last pathway, MA translation research, which the main difference is that you have your dissertation has a heavier weighting. It has 90 credits, and therefore you have fewer optional modules to choose from. The language pairs that are offered within the MA translation are slightly different, but if you go to our website, you'll be able to check the specific details. I've included the information there on a slide, but I'll recommend that you check our website because as I said, some directions are offered while others are not. For example, we offer English into Chinese, but not Chinese into English. And before I conclude, I just wanted to talk briefly about what to do after you finish the MA or the MSA in translation. So we believe that on completion of these programs, you'll be in an excellent position to progress in your chosen career, which could be as a translator, either as an in-house translator working within a company or on a freelance basis. You could also work as a terminologist. You could work as a project manager. You could specialize in translation technology and also become a localization expert or even a marketing consultant. And of course, in all of our pathways after this master's program, you could embark on PhD studies. To help you and prepare you for the language and translation industry, we organize a wide range of activities and to establish contacts with professional translators, translation agencies, and also leading academics in the various fields. And to conclude, you will be able to find further information on our website. You have different links for our different programs and pathways. And there you will also find information about how to contact us. So you can contact me, Rocío Baños Piñero, to ask any questions about the MSc in Translation Technology, but also you can contact my colleague, Dr. Claire Shi, who is the convener of the MA in Translation. And also, if you have specific questions about admissions and entry requirements, you can contact the admissions team. So I hope you found this overview useful, and hopefully I will see you next year if you choose to study with us at UCL and Centras.